I say we just get straight into nerd fights. The time has come. Fantastic Four has dropped. Superman has dropped. I want to have these two different perspectives fight it out. I will remain an impartial judge. Now, here's what I need. Who's going to be defending Fantastic Four and who's going to be defending Superman? I'm at 4. There we go. Zay's claiming it. Now I need somebody for Superman. All right, bet. Zay, Billy, both of y'all, let's debate to the death. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's just get started. Let's just talk about these two movies. They're finally out. I've been wanting to do something involving Superman and Fantastic Four together for a while. The problem is that these movies released 2 weeks separate from each other, which I feel like it's just dumb. It's like we saw, you know, Barbenheimer happen. I don't know why we not trying to recreate the success, but let me set up my timer because the way we're gonna start is both Zay and Billy are gonna hit some remarks. You're gonna make your case for why your movie's the best for 2 minutes or for a maximum of 2 minutes. You can stop whenever you want, but you can't go past 2 minutes.
Zay can go first. I know Zay was prepared to go for like a week, so I know he's ready to like get off his shit. So he can go ahead, go talk about F4. It's the brand new movie, it just came out, and then that gives me a little bit of time to think about the Superman.
Zay, I'm not gonna lie, he bitching you right now, bro. Ask for the coin. I asked for the coin flip, bro.
Oh, he's not because we already talked about it. He already had like a whole like we already had a discussion about about two movies, so he knows where I'm coming from. He knows what
wait,
my point
hold on.
Yeah,
This is news to me. This
knows.
is so. There's been some preliminary discussions about both of these two movies.
I didn't even know that Billy was gonna offer himself up as like a talker for Superman. We were just talking about like what I liked about the movie. So
yo, hold on,
him
stop.
doing this
wait,
is
wait,
actually
wait, stop. So he was like, seems like he was like 3 steps ahead of you, gang. Like he tricked you into like having like a fun familial like discussion on these two movies. That's for then on Sunday be like, I'm gonna bust his head. I know exactly what he's gonna say. I'm gonna give him my thoughts.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's funny because during the DC, we were like, I don't know who's gonna become for you. I don't know who's gonna become for you.
Nah! Yo, Billy, what the fuck?
Know. Hold on. Can I defend myself?
Billy, what the fuck is this?
Can I defend myself really quick? I didn't know that you were just gonna leave it up to anybody to decide they wanted to represent Superman, and I waited like a good 30 seconds so that somebody else could step up, and nobody did. So I was like, "Fuck it, let me step up." This was not planned. This is just the universe, you know, handing me something in a platter. You know what I'm saying? That's all it is.
This is not Zay. I'm not gonna lie, Zay. You gotta key into high gear, buddy. It's 2 minutes on the clock. When I say go, you go, Zay, and make your case for why Fantastic Four is the better movie. Starting now.
Okay. Oh my god. All right. So I'm just gonna start off by saying that Fantastic Four, the way the movie is structured, is just so very focused on the plot. There are no deviations. There are no, stupid subplots that don't really matter once you get to the end of the movie. The movie as a whole, from first act, second act, third act, is just very focused and very locked in. There's no wasted time. There's no time where it's like, oh, why are we doing this when we could get to the main plot? Nope. The whole movie is the main plot, and it actually drags you in to caring about these characters within such a little time. I think within that first 10 to 15 minutes is probably like one of the best like montages of a superhero movie that we've ever seen. And then once you get from that first 10 to 15 minutes, they give you the interstellar like space sequence, which is really, honestly, I think that sequence in F4 is probably a better sequence than anything that Superman has, if I'm being honest with you. That sequence where Sue is giving birth, but she's not just giving birth. They're also running away from the Silver Surfer. They're running away from Galactus. You feel so much tenseness from the music. By the way, the music is better than Superman as well. You get so much tension from the music. You get so much tension from the performances of these characters that, is literally one of the best sequences I've ever seen in a comic book movie. So if I had to say why Superman is, or why Fantastic Four is better than Superman, is because the highs of Fantastic Four, including the music, including like how focused it is as a movie, make it the better movie.
Okay, with 11 seconds left. Okay, perfect. All right, 2 minutes uninterrupted. Now go to Billy. Let me set this up. Are you ready, Billy?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm ready.
starting now.
Honestly, as much as I respect Fantastic Four and the amazing film it is for Marvel, I do think that we just have to be honest. It's Superman. And the long history of this character was amazingly done in this movie. From the intro, he said, Zay said something about them getting straight to the point and being a great montage. If we're talking straight to the point, I mean, Superman gave you a paragraph, a beautiful poetic paragraph. 3 years ago, Superman came onto the scene. 3 months ago, he was undefeated, and so right now, this second, and you immediately see Superman in distress. It puts you in this zone of like, what's going to happen next from the very beginning. Superman has this ability to humanize a character that's greater than life, you know. And at the end of the day, when we watch this character, the whole talk in the timeline was, "Oh, I'm Hope Maxing, I'm Hope Maxing, I'm Hope Maxing." Because at the end of this movie, what it did that Fantastic Four didn't do was give us hope. And I know you gave me 2 minutes, but I really don't think I need it. At the end of the day, Superman is Superman. And I think throughout this debate, I'm going to prove that it is light years ahead of where Fantastic Four is. Despite, an interstellar comparison, that's not even, we can talk about that, but, that's not even a valid comparison, in my opinion. But it is what it is.
Wow. Okay. 30 seconds left. So you took a minute and a half and said, that's my point. Now, everybody that's watching the stream right now, proceed with caution. Gloves are off. Spoilers will be said. I mean, I feel like Zay already got into kind of spoilery things. Not quite, but, he got pretty in-depth. But it's not fully spoiler. Now, both of y'all are allowed to go full spoiler, but I'm going to let Zay respond first. Zay, what do you have to say to what Billy just said?
Concerning the fact that Superman is such a big character and stuff like that, like we've gotten good iterations of Superman on screen before. Like we've gotten Christopher Reeves, and I think he was probably like, I love David Cornsweet, but I think that Christopher Reeves was like the first like superhero like to like come on screen and be like, oh, we can actually do this on screen. So like for Superman, there is like a past like presence of like them already being able to do this. For Fantastic Four, we have not gotten one good Fantastic Four movie. I like some of the moments in Rise of the Silver Surfer. I like some of the moments in the first film. I think Four Stick is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. So us getting to a movie where we can actually execute these characters and we can execute Galactus and we can execute these things that have seemed so hard to execute, over the past couple of years, I think that's a plus for Fantastic Four. That's a benefit to Fantastic Four. And I also think they make you fall in love with the familial aspect of these characters. I think Superman makes you fall in love with maybe being the son of these parents, but Fantastic Four makes you fall in love with parentage and being a father and being a mother and being, protective of your children and, people. So I think that Fantastic Four gives you hope in a sense that you have hope for the future of the MCU. I don't think I do think there is a difference between the Superman hope and the Fantastic Four hope. Once after you come out of Fantastic Four, you're like, wow, I really cannot wait to see where they take these characters and where they take this story. So
Okay, Billy, how do you respond to that?
First and foremost, Zay is doing an amazing job at explaining himself. But where I will say that I don't know, he kind of messed up a little bit.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I have to step in as a mediator. Let's relax.
I can't compliment Zay.
Let's relax. Let's relax with the mind games, the reverse psychologies. Let's stick to the argument. Thank you.
Nah, I'm sorry. I didn't know that you were gonna. I can't give a compliment to Zay. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, we're sticking. Let's stick to the.
Let me start over. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let me start over. I'm sorry. But what Zay said about the previous iterations, I love where he took Superman. Superman has had amazing people play him, and Fantastic Four hasn't. And I think that when we watch the Fantastic Four movie, as good as it is for the MCU, let's take a look at it in its totality. This is possibly the best Fantastic Four because all the others were trash, and Zay admitted to that himself. This might be a great MCU movie, but we all know that MCU hasn't been hitting the same way since Endgame and Infinity War. It has its moments, But this being the savior and maybe a good seven movie should tell you that the quality of the movie doesn't match the level in which people are hyping it. Now, Superman, however, again has a rich history of when people play it, people show up, show out in the movie theaters, and people love this. So for you to go into this movie and for people to walk out and say this is the best Superman out of the long history of people playing it. We've had a Superman show. We've had Superman in the 80s, Superman in the 90s, Superman in 2000s, Man of Steel a couple of years ago. You know, not too long ago. But for people to walk out of the theater and say this is the best Superman, and you know, Zay tried to say this thing of like, oh, Fantastic Four gives you hope for a company. While Superman, his battle is being this alien person on Earth and trying to relate and embody what humans are at its core. Anybody, no matter who you are, no matter what you go through, no matter how you live your life, when you leave this movie, you say to yourself, I believe in humanity a little bit more because Superman believes in humanity a little bit more. Now, throughout this debate, we're going to go into the specifics of the movie, but I did want to establish that first, that Superman, his literal symbol means hope. And at the end of the day, when you watch a movie, whether it's through the color scheme, whether it's through the cinematography, whether it's through the dialogue of him arguing with the woman he loves over saving children that can't save themselves, hope is the message. And I think we have to take away from that. Not hope for a billion-dollar company that obviously doesn't care about us. You know, they've showed that they gave us Captain America Brave New World earlier this year, and everybody forgot about that. Why? Because it sucked. So no, I don't have hope for a billion-dollar company. What I have hope for is that people like Ford, people like Zay, people like Pity in the comments walk out of this movie and say, you know what? I'm going to treat my neighbor a little bit better because Clark Kent did.
Zay, what do you have to say? You seem awfully quiet. I sense no fight. Like, I don't understand what's going on. I feel like you're just laying down and taking it. I'm sorry. Like, I don't mean to instigate, and I'm not instigating. I'm just kind of mediating. But Zay, you're kind of, do you believe the Fantastic Four is the better movie? Be honest with me right now.
Yes, I'm giving you good points. What are you talking about?
You gotta lock in, bro. You gotta lock in.
I think you're getting
from both of
brainwashed
y'all.
because listen. I think you're getting brainwashed because Billy is touching your heart. You know, but he's not talking about the movie structure.
I'm unbiased.
He's not talking about
unbiased. I don't get. You know, I'm not taking nothing into.
I think Billy is cooking you mentally because you're not seeing past his games. You're not seeing past it.
I'm more worried about me than actually the movie. What are we here to talk about? Fantastic Four versus Superman or Billy versus Zay?
So
I think we should give.
So Zay, talk about the structural. You mentioned some structural issues of Superman, or like what were you just hinting at just now? I need you to like, because I'm not gonna lie, y'all. It's like, you know, you gotta make me believe why your movie's better, and if that includes shitting on the other movie and pointing out the movie's flaws, I think it's time. I see a lot of bigging up your own movie. Sure, what I cannot trust that, but you gotta tell me now why the other movie's worse than yours. Starting with you, Zay.
Sure. The first thing I actually wanted to get into, which is gonna be one of my biggest points, is the fact that the movie, the music of Fantastic Four is amazing, and I think it is better than Superman, and it proves like the movie, like structurally, like the way that they plan this movie out, because before they even started filming, they started doing the music for the movie. They started writing the music. They started figuring out what it's going to sound like. So that theme that you hear in the trailer, that was written before we had even gotten a cast. So them knowing that this is where we want to take the Fantastic Four, I think Superman doesn't really have that same aspect to it. I think Superman as a movie, while it is a great movie, it is erratic at sometimes. It is, you know, sometimes like it'll go to a random side plot that doesn't really resolve itself by the end of the story. I think in Fantastic Four, every side plot that you have resolves itself by the end of the story. In Fantastic Four, you have Ben Grimm, the Thing. He goes to see this girl at the beginning of the movie, and before the disaster comes, he says like what might be a goodbye to that woman that he met at the beginning of the movie, finishing that side plot. You had Johnny in the beginning of the movie feeling like he's insecure, feeling like he's not heard. By the end of the movie, he does some big things. He, you know, speaks to Silver Surfer. He figures out her language. He figures out her language, finishes out that side plot, and that is actually a massive reason why the Fantastic Four win, because Johnny connected to Silver Surfer in that way. I don't think that Superman has that same like you have fun moments with Jimmy Olsen, and then Lois Lane is like the real only side character that really like does things. But besides that, I think that Fantastic Four successfully threads the needle with beginning subplots to the end. That's why I'm saying like structurally it's a better movie. There's no wasted time in Fantastic Four. That's really my point.
Billy, how do you feel about what Zay saying that there's a bunch of like bullshit plot points in Superman that lead nowhere and it's just a waste of time? How do you respond to that?
I think that's an interesting critique. Where I would disagree though is we can go character by character, and I can tell you the beginning of their stories and the end of their stories. I don't even have to start with Superman because he wanted to talk about subplots. Let's talk about subplots. Let's talk about how Mr. Terrific was introduced as this stoic genius, and by the end of the film he allowed himself to be more emotional. Those emotions coming in allowed him to stick around and try to save Superman. Those emotions coming in allowed him to put his pride to the side and put his allegiance to the side and go with Lewis. Because at the end of the day, they were corporatized. The Green Lantern was corporatized. Hawkeye was corporatized. Hawkgirl was corporatized. And then we'll talk about Green Lantern. This character who throughout the film, you wonder, how did he get a ring? If you know anything about the Green Lantern lore, you know that these people are morally sound. They're courageous. And when you look at him, you're like, this guy kind of seems like an asshole. But right at the end, right when you know Superman's not coming to save the people that need to be saved, who is the first person we see? The Green Lantern. And he shows us exactly why the ring chose him. By saving that young man. That seems like a very point A to B storyline to me, if I've ever seen one. And then let's go with Superman himself. Superman who built his identity on an idea that he was here to save humanity. Forced to see that identity was taken away from him. He didn't know that his parents had a 20 seconds extra message to tell him like, yeah, go to Earth, you know what I'm saying? They need you because you need to repopulate the Earth. And that fucked him up mentally. But he put that to the side in order to properly save who needed to be saved. He was able to find new hope in the parents that did raise him. So that to me feels like a complete storyline. You have people like Lex Luthor, who's arguably the best villain out of these two movies. I mean, we have iconic monologues coming from Lex Luthor, and we see the level in which he hates Superman, the lengths in which he's willing to go just to attack this one person, and we see him at the end being faced with the consequences of his actions. We see him looking at this symbol of hope that he tried to get rid of, and he failed. And having to deal with that, having to deal with, damn, I did this sneaky thing, I tried to bribe this, I put these people in prison, and at the end, I still couldn't win. And those to me feel like complete storylines, and we don't even have to get into Lois Lane's storyline, who Zay himself said was the main side character. But to say that there were too many plots and it wasn't focused, to me, just shows lack of, media literacy when watching this film. As much as we can talk about F4, like F4 came out as a piece of a bigger story, while Superman came out as a story within itself. And so, of course, you need to be as streamlined as possible with F4 because how much do they matter? You have to make things A to B, 1, 2, 3 simple. Oh yeah, Johnny wants to save his nephew. He learns the language. Okay. Is that going to come in handy later? We don't know. Because that's all F4 is at the end of the day. It's just another piece of a bigger puzzle. While Superman, they wanted to make cinema. They wanted to make art. And in my humble opinion, I believe they did.
Okay.
Yeah, Zay.
Can I just respond?
Yeah,
Can I just respond?
Go ahead.
Okay. So you saying that Superman wanted to make art in F4 as if F4 didn't want to make art is a little bit that's a little bit insane to me personally, because I feel like, as I mentioned earlier, with some of the sequences in this movie and the way that they shot Galactus specifically, like there are scenes visually in this movie that Superman just doesn't reach the heights of. Hold on. There you go. there are scenes visually in this movie that Superman just doesn't reach the heights of. If we talk visually, if we talk about them, the way that they shoot Galactus to be this scary, super big, Lovecraftian type monster. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Cthulhu, but he's that kind of like celestial being to where it's like Galactus is not so much evil as to where he's so big that like that's scary. You know, and the way that they shoot that in the movie is very, very like scary. Like they use miniatures to shoot Galactus. I don't know if you know this, but they
I'm
use.
sorry, you don't want your villain to be evil. You just want him to be big.
Hold on, let me finish my point. Relax.
That just bothered me a little bit because as a villain, you're supposed to be the bad guy.
That's not what Galactus is. That's not his character. He's not an evil character in the comics. He's not an evil guy. He's just a guy that is forced to do things.
So the superhero movie that you say is better doesn't have an actual villain, is what you're telling me.
It does have an actual villain. It has a protagonist and an antagonist. That doesn't mean that Galactus is actually evil. He is just forced to do these things. If they made Galactus evil, that would be a betrayal of the comics. And that would be a betrayal of the movie. So no, Galactus shouldn't be evil. He's just a force of nature.
So if he was simply just a force of nature, what was the point of making like? Again, I think that lends to what I said earlier. F4 is just a cog in the machine. As great as it might be, as great as the characters may be or certain lines may be, it's another cog. It was never meant to be better than what it was. You can name little cinematography tricks, but what are we talking about? CGI?
How do you respond to the cog in the machine?
Oh, I'm talking about.
Is it just plainly a cog in the machine? Come on, is it? How do you respond to? Is it a cog in the machine?
I think that similar to Superman, F4 is like you can step into F4 without seeing anything else and be fine with that. I think if it was another cog in the machine, similar to Thunderbolts, you wouldn't be able to go into F4 or without any like prior knowledge. I think that Thunderbolts, you probably needed a little bit of prior knowledge of the MCU, of these characters. I think with Captain America Brave New World, you definitely needed prior knowledge of these characters. But F4 just being another cog in the machine would mean that you would need prior knowledge of these characters. F4 is a completely standalone story that doesn't need the rest of the MCU to be a good movie. It's just by itself. It may set up things in the future of the MCU, but if you go see F4 by itself and don't see another MCU movie again, you'll be satisfied. It's not just another cog in the machine. It is the machine.
How do you respond to that, Billy? You said this is a standalone movie that doesn't need any prior knowledge to go watch. Does it still make it a cog in the machine?
I mean, you have post-credit scenes, you have, things that reference other like places, you know what I'm saying? They're setting up a story.
Which places? Which places?
So they're setting up alternate universes. They're setting up different storylines with Doomsday as the post-credit scene. It only exists as a cog in the machine. To say it's not is disingenuous because you liked one scene that felt like Interstellar. You liked a scene that felt like a different movie. How can you say the movie is great when the scene that you loved reminded you of another movie? They stole from another movie. But
movies take from each other all the time. That's the purpose of movies. That's how movies get made. They're like, I'm inspired by this other movie, and we take it into another movie. That's how. What are you talking about? People are inspired all the time. People are inspired. Interstellar is inspired by 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Hold on. Zay, address the point more directly. Is the part that you like where they go into space, would you say that part is completely divorced from the other two parts of the movie, from the first and third act?
No, the reason why they go into space is because they're so arrogant. They're like, ooh, we can just handle Galactus. We don't care what he is. We're the Fantastic Four. We've been handling things on this earth for years. Then they go up into space and realize, no, that's actually not the case. Galactus is this world-ending monster who is ready to take over Earth if he needs to, who is ready to, take the Earth down if he needs to. It's not just like, that's not the only part of the movie I like, but it's the reason that like kicks the movie into high gear. I love that part, but yeah. I love the whole movie actually, but.
Well, Zay, how would you compare your second act of your movie compared to Superman's second act, where Superman goes into the pocket dimension and he is kind of there for a while and has to get out? How would you compare your second act to Superman's second act?
I think that Reed being able to, like, we see that I think they already proved that they do such a good job in like the first act of telling us who these characters are that the second act has so much impact with Reed not knowing like what to do. Him having no clue like what to do, that sells the impact and the stakes of this certain problem versus Superman, which okay, it's just Superman with kryptonite, which we know is his weakness. We know like somehow like he's gonna have to get out of it or whatever. But I don't think it's like it has the same impact as Reed, the smartest man in the world, and basically leading the world towards like salvation, basically saying like this is my death. I don't know what I can do versus this. And then later on you have Sue Storm, who is the heart and soul of the movie. She later, provides something to Reed to where that reinforces the family aspect of this, that the family is going to solve this as a family, and it's not just going to be Reed, being in his garage by himself dreaming up problems. It actually takes a family, which Reed had to learn from. He had to learn that it actually takes a family throughout the movie. It takes everyone.
Billy, how would you talk about your second act of the movie compared to Fantastic Four?
I think this is a really good place to kind of distinguish where both of them are different. I think both of them, when you make a superhero movie, and you have people who are as powerful as a Fantastic Four, and you have people who are as powerful as Superman, they do deal with a lot of arrogance, and they do rely on who they are as a superhero. And so the second act breaks that down. We see him caught by Lex Luthor in this position where kryptonite is right next to him, and we see him dying. We literally see him fading away. And so when all is lost, when the thing that separates himself, the thing that makes him a hero is gone, he has to rely on what he loves, which is this human experience. He speaks to the character's human experience. Hey, if you help me, I can help you save this kid. If you give me out of this position, I can help get everybody out of this. And I feel like that speaks to Superman's character so much that it just made this powerful moment when the guy was able to make a son and bring Superman back. He was able to save the kid, and then eventually just fighting against this black hole that Lex Luthor made. I mean, when we even get into this pocket dimension, we see the lengths that Lex is willing to go to get to his goal. And I think when we talk about grandness, like Zay mentioned the bigness of, I forgot his villain's name. He mentions the bigness of his villain, but when you go into
Zay, you gonna let that happen? Zay, you want to clarify the name of the villain?
He can forget. I don't.
Okay.
I don't care. He can forget.
I feel like I forgot because it feels just like an irrelevant villain. But when we talk about Lex Luthor and we talk about something that's grand, we see him truly being evil. Like when he asks Superman, he says Superman, he's interrogating Superman. Who does he use? He uses this person that he feels like Superman has a connection to. And he sits there and plays Russian roulette with a food cart operator and kills him. The food cart operator is actively telling Superman, please don't give him what he wants. You eating from my cart was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. My interaction with you, the fact that you know me, is the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And Lex Luthor kills him in front of Superman. Arguably one of the best comic book movies villain portrayals, because what it shows us is it shows us that not only is Lex willing to build this pocket dimension, not only is he willing to trick the government and work on both sides, but he's willing to kill because of his hate for Superman. And somehow, some way, Superman's able to overcome that because he has the one thing Lex doesn't.
Okay, interesting.
A link to humanity.
Okay, I'm gonna ask another question. We've been going for about 30 minutes, so soon I'm gonna ask for the final thoughts on both of y'all to make your final case on why your movie's better. But my next question is gonna be, I want both of y'all to answer, how does this movie make you excited for what's coming inside of both of yours universes? What's up, Jono? Starting with you, Zay. How does Fantastic Four make you excited for the future of Marvel?
All right. That's actually a great question, because I think it leads into something where I think that I saw Dom's tweet on the timeline that this doesn't really set up anything for Doomsday, or it doesn't really set up anything for the rest of the way. And I think that if you know what they're doing, which is the Secret Wars 2015 run, and they're doing the Time Runs Out run for those stories, this movie very does that very well. It does that very well. It gives you a hints of that very well. I think that what they needed to do was envelop us and endear us to new characters, so that way we care about the conflicts that they're going to be facing when they get into Doomsday. You know, at the end of the movie, at the end of F4, you have Doom. He's essentially going to kidnap Franklin. That's going to be, the end of the movie, and that's how we're going to get to Doomsday. The whole movie of Fantastic Four is protecting, your children, really going into a different mode for your children, like Sue Storm did in the third act. So when you in Doomsday, you have Doctor Doom take Franklin. That's going to be like an invasion of like your space. That's going to be like an invasion. It's going to be like, yo, like this guy is utilizing his relationship with my child, and he's going to turn this into his own empire. He's going to turn everything into his, using my kids, and I don't really have a say in it because I'm not as powerful, or I don't have the same relationship with my kid that he does. He's manipulating my child, and that's like a very powerful thing. That's a very powerful thing. So I'm very excited because this movie did a very good job of making us love these characters, which we needed to do in order to care about the conflict later on, which is going to come eventually.
All right, Billy.
I think that what people would like you to think about F4 is what they should be thinking about Superman, which is Superman is a clean slate. It's the beginning of this amazing story that we get to go on. We got introduced to very like characters with depth within this first Superman. And we were allowed to see them go through these changes or go through these character arcs that sets up this entire universe for us to get ready to explore. Unlike Fantastic Four, Superman isn't just another iteration to a bigger story, it's the beginning. We're here at the beginning of this new DCU, and I feel like when I look at Superman, it gets me excited for the future because I know, okay, it's in the right hands. Gun don't jam for a reason. You know, they got the gun to my back for a reason, and Superman is primed to do that. They've introduced such amazing characters, Supergirl. They've introduced the Green Lantern Corps. They've introduced Mr. Terrific. They've just introduced us to so many great characters. I'm excited to hear their stories and see where they go, and not just see another thing that's like, oh, this is another chapter in this long story. Like, what are we doing, y'all?
Okay. One more question, then we're done. I keep coming up with questions last minute. I want you to tell me why the love story in your movie works. Because I do think there are similarities in the relationship between Superman and Lois Lane and Reed and Sue Storm. I'm gonna start with Billy this time. Billy, tell me why the romance in your movie works.
I think that's a great question. Honestly, I think both Superman and Lois Lane, you see that they come from two different worlds, literally and metaphorically. While Superman is this alien figure and Lois Lane is someone born and raised on Earth, Clark Kent was raised to believe in what's best for humanity, always be like a helping hand, while Lois Lane was raised to be like, okay, I gotta be a little bit cutthroat in order to get ahead. I gotta be this I have to put up this wall between people. They even say it in a scene when they have this argument. She says, I knew this wouldn't work. And Clark's immediate response was being hurt. Like, why would you think that this wasn't working? I think that shows the dynamic extremely well. They're two people that shouldn't work, but for some reason, somehow, some way, they do. Because where they're different is where they complement each other. Where Clark Kent might be too trusting, Lois Lane is able to reel him back in and say, "Listen, all of humanity isn't great, and you're gonna have to be okay with that." And where Lois Lane may put up walls and may not ask for help, when Superman was at his lowest, she immediately went to the people that she thought could be of service. And so I think that this love story shows something that's real and rooted and grounded in like real relationships. Everybody's relationship isn't this perfect story. Everybody's relationship isn't this perfect match, but it's the love for each other that makes us want to be there, and it makes us overcome the things that we may have thought we couldn't have overcome. And I think that's what really show. I think they do a good job of showing that in this Superman movie.
Okay, Zay, how would you say that Fantastic Four sold this romance, its primary romance?
I think Fantastic Four does all of the things that Billy was talking about his, Lois Lane and Superman do, but also with a child in the mix and showing like how parentage changes your relationship with your wife or your husband. I think that Fantastic Four with Reed and with Sue, you have an absolute power couple who, yes, they have their problems at home. Yes, sometimes Reed is aloof and he isn't thinking about, he isn't as emotionally available sometimes. And yes, sometimes Sue is a little bit rash and a little bit aggressive, but these two work and they work with the child and they also work for the world. They are saving the world. They are leading the world into salvation. Like I said earlier, these two are basically like the saviors of this world. You have Sue leading a conference. You have Reed creating new technology and watching like criminals all over the world. Like they're saving the world together while also being very romantic towards each other and having that great
Yeah, talk
relationship.
about that.
And
Talk
you
about the
fall in.
dynamic specifically between both of them. You've talked about their role in the larger universe. Talk more about their dynamic in between each other.
No, yeah, their dynamic is really good because of how I think it's really good because of how accurate it is to the comics and how strong of a character they make Sue in this movie. Sue is almost like the leader of this movie, but their dynamic together is like, okay, you have Reed who is kind of autistic. Shout out to you for he's a little bit autistic. He's a guy that's not really like as outspoken as Sue is. Sue is more like the leader of the relationship. Them together, they're a perfect pairing for this family and to lead this family because they have that aspect together. They're like two puzzle pieces coming together to lead the family and to lead the world.
Okay.
Plus, you also have, Franklin being in the midst.
Okay. Okay. I did time out Lindsay because talent asked to time her out earlier. So when she comes back, just let her know that's why. Okay. Final words. We started with Zay last time. Now we're starting with Billy. Billy, I'm gonna give you a time for 2 minutes. You're gonna now bring it home. Tell me exactly why you think this movie's better. And let's stick with why you think your movie's good as opposed to why the other movie sucks. Let's stay focused on you bigging up your own movie. Okay? Let me pull up the timer. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, starting now.
I think this movie is amazing because of it embodies who Superman is as a character. It embodies the hope that you get when you see someone who has an opportunity to be bad. Like Superman is better than us in every possible way, yet when he looks at us, he wants to be just like us. There's something in us that is worth saving, and I think this movie embodies it. I think that Lex Luthor is arguably one of the best versions of like a superhero villain, and just the monologues and the way that he's acting and the scenes that they gave him to show exactly where, why, and how his hate for Superman is manifested, and how that affects Superman in his relationships, and how that affects Superman in him doing his job. And I think at the end of the day, when you watch this film, you leave out of it wanting more. You leave out of it saying, okay, DC is in good hands. Where else are they going to take us?
Wow. Okay, you have 56 seconds. You sure you don't want to use them?
What's understood don't need to be said.
Okay. All
Superman
right.
is
Okay.
one of the greatest comic book films of all time.
Okay. Lynn's talent, that was a reward. But she knows this. Anyways, whatever. Go ahead, Zay, you got 2 minutes to state your case. Also, take your glasses off. Take the glasses off.
Am I taking the glasses off?
Yeah,
Why am I taking the glasses
Take
off?
the glasses off. You gotta look at the people and talk to them. No, fully. I'm telling you, bro. You got. Thank you. Look at the people and talk to them
All right,
and,
bro.
and explain
All
to
right,
them
bro.
why this movie's better. Are you ready?
Yeah. Let's go. Let's
Okay.
go.
Go ahead.
All right. So I believe that Fantastic Four is the better movie simply because it does all the movie things correctly and it does all the movie things better than Superman does like the movie things. Superman may touch you in a heart kind of sense, but if we're talking about the movie as visually, the movie is better. Plot wise, the movie is better. Music wise, the movie is better. Billy mentioned earlier that the best part of Fantastic Four is a scene from another movie. That scene from that other movie is also based on Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. So we could go round and round in circles all day about, oh, this part of the movie is from another movie, but at the end of the day, movies are all inspired from each other. Directors are inspired from each other. Matt Shackman himself, in the birth scene, put his own experience of having his own child into the movie. So if we were to not use inspirations from other movies, Superman wouldn't be able to use the Superman music. They would have to come up with a new, kind of music. They would have to come up with entirely new things, which they wouldn't because that was so great. There's a reason that, they use this stuff. So Fantastic Four is just a better movie visually, structurally, character wise with the families. I feel like you feel more, you relate more to the family. So yeah, that's why Fantastic Four is a better movie to me.
Okay, 30 seconds. Is that you don't want to use more of your time?
Fantastic Four.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen. All right, that's been it. Now I'm gonna need one of our mods to put up the poll. Let's make it a minute. Who do you guys think won in this nerd fight? Was it Billy with Superman or Zay with Fantastic Four? Well, with 58% of the votes, Billy cheers.
Who won?
Billy. Billy won. All right, thank you, gentlemen. That was fun.
Thank you.
All right, y'all.